Hello, I'm Angelina Macedo. This is vlog number 5, I'm pretty sure, for Calm 45. This week I will be reviewing Chapter 6, Creating the Myth, the Asian Renovation of Biracial Buddy Action, and the 7 Steps to the Perfect Story. Really piqued my interest, because this is stuff I learned in the past in another class about fantasy and science writing. So it was nice to have a little bit of background knowledge on this sort of stuff. So creating the myth, it was kind of a dissection about heroes and mythology and how myths are like the story behind the story and are known to be like a universal experience. And that helps, in modern day media such as films and cartoons, you know, sending forth those messages that like have been done many times before in media, and we all have certain correlations, such as the hero. It's who we want to be or who we see ourselves as. So a lot of this they talk about the hero journey, which was designed by Joseph Campbell, who saw a lot of patterns in mythology and touched on archetypes, which are common character ideations that show up in books, such as heroes, villains, sidekicks, anti-heroes, etc. So a lot of this was just basically a sort of a basic recipe book for writing fiction, and a proper, not a proper, but a fiction story that would gain an audience. So overall, eh, more information than a an essay that put forward new ideas. It was just rehashing old. Um, but overall, good information to have. But I'll move right into the 7 steps of the perfect story, which was a poorly designed infographic at best and confusing at worst. I don't really like this one. I thought the design in it was kind of like it's not great, but I'm talking more about the artistic stuff and not the information that was in the thing. Um, Overall, I think this was like good for basic steps on how to write a fiction, and key points to keep an audience interested. However, I feel like narrowing down a story like that to just a 7 step process to create the perfect story doesn't it feels too boxed in. I feel like the perfect story can come from anywhere, and I think people taking their own spins and twirls on it is important. Um, but I did like the ending where they mentioned observing the golden rule, which is not showing people 4, but showing them 2 plus 2. So the audience has to put that stuff together, and that makes the story really intriguing. And I love to add that into my own work, if I'm smart enough to figure it out sometimes. But yeah, moving on to a history of the buddy cop. So this talked a lot about how Hollywood, uh, around like let's say 1960s, 1950s, started to capitalize off of a wider range of audience by including a black character as the buddy, uh, like the buddy cop in any good old fashioned police sort of movie. And this reflected its stance on adding people of color into film. So when I was reading this, I was very interested, and a lot of it touched on specifically the Asian inclusion into sort of buddy cop films. Well, this isn't a buddy cop film. I immediately thought about Kill Bill, which has a large piece a large portion uh, set in Japan, and it was very interesting because the people residing in Japan were like the evil bosses. However, there was like, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but like a fetishization of kung fu and karate and Asian martial arts. Um, and I thought, yeah, thinking back on it, that was kind of weird how they demonized this culture and then praised this other part of it. It was interesting, but I did like how it talked about how the Asian inclusion um allowed changes to be made and how masculinity is shown in American film. Towards the end, it started dissecting Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3, which was a big change because it was a buddy cop movie with both a black and an Asian person being the main people, which is super cool. However, I did think they got lost at this part. But even with this big dissection of all three of these movies, you can really tell the author's love, and the changes that they brought forth were very clear for people of color in their communities. So yeah, three good essays once again. I think the Asian renovation of the biracial buddy action was my favorite. And yeah, all right, see you next week.